Hey there and welcome back to another Miraculous Ladybug review. And my god, it is time for some premium drama. And let me set the scene. Here we are, fans of Miraculous, waiting somewhat patiently for the release of the next episode. Some of us are rewatching old episodes or theorizing or making memes, anticipating the last couple of episodes that need a release before we get to see what happens in the finale. The two-part finale. Ominously titled, The Last Attack of Shadow Moth. A title which promises greatness, which perhaps hints at a paradigm shift, a change in the story. A promise that nothing will ever be the same again. Everything is going to change off the back of this finale. All these interweaving storylines are going to get paid off and tied together at long last. Nothing can go wrong here. Nothing at all. Until Spectrum shits the bed in truly spectacular fashion and releases the first half of the finale out of nowhere. Oopsie. And I mean, I assume this was an accident. If somebody released it on purpose, well, that is actually kind of pretty funny and a win for us. And anyway, as could be predicted, the fandom swarmed all over it like flies in honey. And so by this point, things have well and truly been spoiled. And poor Asterix is once again having a meltdown on Twitter. And whilst I like to clown on him from time to time, God, this would suck. Imagine working so hard on creating this story, and whether you think it's good or bad, you can't deny the dude probably works quite hard, because he must be sitting there after 4 seasons worth of choppy release dates from all these different random studios, but he must be thinking, oh well, at least the final arc of season 4 can be released chronologically. The middle episodes, they don't matter as much, as long as those mini arcs remain in order. But at least the finale will air in order and tie everything together. As long as that happens, I'll be happy. And then some random streaming service drops the part 1 of your finale before the rest of the episodes have aired, and people start trolling you on Twitter. And that's on top of the regular trolling you get. And man, I would also be pissed. Although I don't think it justifies the absurd level of anger and salt he is spewing at fans, but maybe that's just me. But with all that being said, the episode has leaked. And there's no way to unleak it. The milk has spilled. It's on the floor. There's no putting it back in the bottle. So that means, in my opinion, the episode is fair game to review. So with all that being said, let's jump into it. So we start off the episode in the immediate aftermath of a Nakumatai's villain attack, with basically the entire team present after having taken down the villain. And I gotta say, I feel like it's a little bit overkill for all of them to be turning up all the time. Like, how much time does Ladybug have on her hands to find all these different people in the midst of battle, take them off on their own, one by one, and then give them the miraculous? Plus, it feels like they're only here as filler, so that the creators can say, see, we do use the other heroes, guys, see? They're just there, look. Anyway, though, they have a little bit of cringy dialogue back and forth before they all take off and we get more sad boy Cat Noir. So, I'm guessing Kuroneko was not the end of that storyline. Good to know. Also, kiss on the cheek? Usually, I'm in the camp of Marinette's just being nice and that doesn't mean she's leading him on. But come on now, in that context, it reeks of flirting. She says, you'll always be my favourite, and then kiss on the cheek? Yeah, that one definitely felt a bit manipulative to get him to shut up and go away. But side note, why can't Cat Noir know who the other holders are? If Rena's allowed to know, why can't he? It's a bit harsh. It's not like he's asking to know hers. Especially since he already saw the holders during Miracle Queen, right? I mean, maybe Ladybug lied to him and said, oh, I've changed them all, because they were compromised, but I don't know, it just seems weird. I mean, she knows she can trust him. Bit sad, really. Anyway, after Alia, who's on some rooftop with a telescope, tells her the coast is clear, she gets everybody's Miraculouses, and her and Alia meet up in an alleyway to head off to the cinema. And side note, is this a reference to the New York special? Did they say they were going to watch United Heroes? Isn't that the name of the special? Did they make a movie about Ladybug and Cat Noir abandoning Paris to go to New York? Is that a thing now? Perhaps it's a sequel to Shark Tank vs. Mecha Tiger. Who knows? Anyway, some very obvious foreshadowing as Alia and Marinette talk about how all their operations have been smooth sailing for a while now. Maybe gathering up all the heroes is actually a better plan than I thought it was then. Or maybe this is too much of a good thing and we need to squash this happy-go-lucky hero business pronto. Anyway, we then cut to Gabe, who's standing over his wife's corpse fridge crying about how he's such an unworthy loser because he can't get back the Miraculouses. And yeah, actually true. Smooth brain galore. And then he breaks out the sandpaper to smooth out his brain a little bit more as he starts pounding on the glass. You know, the glass that keeps her corpse preserved. And he cracks it. What an idiot. How hard was he hitting it? At this point, he really needs to just rethink his entire life. Anyway, he freaks out. He closes the protective doors and runs off. Bit pathetic. Although it does reignite my suspicion that Emily is some sort of crazy master villain with how dedicated he is to saving her. I get it, he loves her and everything, but a normal person would just have to deal with their grief eventually, not possess people with magical butterflies in the hopes of bringing her back. I mean, what a strange idea to begin with. I just get this weird vibe that she made him promise to try and save her. I mean, I could be wrong though, and that's probably not going to be covered for a while anyway. And then we cut to him chilling in Natalie's room where he rages about how Ladybug never makes a mistake. So basically, he's trying to say, none of this is my fault, it's Ladybug. She's simply too perfect. God, what a dweeb. Imagine losing to a bunch of teenagers over and over again. Seriously, he just gets relentlessly clapped every day of the week. Sometimes it feels like he isn't even trying. If you don't akumatize and amok at the same time, what are you even doing, mate? And of course, Natalie just can't resist living that simp life, because she tells him, oh, you also never make any mistakes. Yeah, sure, mate. Try firing up Disney Plus and rewatching the first 3 seasons before you make such a big call. Anyway, she starts coughing and all that, and he tells her that it was a mistake on his part to let her use the Peacock Miraculous in the first place. But she tells him it was her choice to take that risk. With the word risk triggering his neurons to start firing and cook up a plan to make Ladybug take risks. But like, she has taken risks before, dog. Oh well. And then he evil cackles right there in the bedroom like a complete freak. And she just awkwardly sits there while he does it? He even looks into the sky. So weird. And then he just runs off. What the hell is he doing? Dude needs less caffeine and a healthy dose of therapy, methinks. Anyway, he goes to his lair and powers up a Mega Kuma, and we get a more in-depth look at how Gabe chooses who to akumatize. So basically it's like shifting through the different radio channels. So I do have to wonder, now that we know this, how has he not regularly come across things like, oh, I wish Ladybug would give me a chance, or being the Guardian's so difficult, etc., etc., and just targeted them relentlessly. That's what I would do. I mean, we know from Ephemeral that he can literally sense these negative things when he's not even in Shadowmoth form like he did with Bob Roth. So, no excuses, Gabe. You're just not worthy. Anyway, he sends out the Akuma after some kid who goes by the name Froggy and wears a lot of frog merch. And he keeps trying to escape his parents and keeps cycling on his cute little bike with the training wheels. And to be honest, this was a pretty unexpected villain for part 1 of Shadowmoth's supposed last attack. But here we are, watching Smooth Brain Gabe. And what should we really expect at this point? Anyway, the kid gets turned into Risk, a villain who makes people take risks when they hear his singing, and so when his parents catch up, he unleashes his song, and they just let him cycle off into the city with no supervision at sunset. This was actually pretty funny. And for once, he tells the villain to actually hide the akumatized object, finally adding some wrinkles onto his brain, I guess. Also, I did have to laugh when the kid was almost killed instantly as a car had to swerve and crash to avoid hitting him. Also, realistically, imagine how many people are going to get themselves killed because of this risk-taking behaviour. Gabe really is the worst at this point, isn't he? Anyway, we see this kid cycling throughout the night, frogifying everyone, before we cut to Adrian, who wakes up the next day and gets FaceTimed by Natalie from the other room, telling him his daily itinerary. Rich people, am I right? Anyway, Adrian brushes it all off because he's excited for a breakfast with his dad, which has been promised for months, but that's been cancelled for more modelling stuff. Oh. And how can anyone be such a shit parent? Come on. How does it take months to have breakfast with your own kid? Seriously, cereal in a bowl with some milk. Kaboom. Sit in the chair and eat it while you make awkward small talk. Everyone else does it. Why can't you? It really shouldn't be that hard, Gabe. Anyway, it's at this point that he gets froggied, and he goes off to confront his dad with his desire to not be a model anymore. And not gonna lie, it was nice to finally see Adrian act assertive in that regard. Until he gets absolutely shut down instantly as soon as he barges in. Sad times. And side note, this poor kid's been writing all night singing. I'd have to assume the Akuma has to give him relentless energy and power, right? Because otherwise, how would his throat not be bone dry after singing for half a day? And how does he have the energy to continuously ride that damn bike? I'm actually impressed. Anyway, we cut back to Gabriel's ad pitch for his brand, starring Adrian and Lila, where we get some premium Lila cringe, as she tries to talk about some Hollywood film she starred in, and Adrian shuts her down instantly. Awkward. Anyway, the producer tries to complain that the shoot's going to be expensive because they have to pay for green screen and backdrops, but who even cares? I get complaining about a movie because you actually have to get the money from the investors and all that, and the producer has to do all that work. But this is going to be completely funded by Gabe's company, isn't it? Why would he even care? Those massive companies have marketing teams and accountants that would handle this for him. Dude should just sit back and get paid. But also, an ad campaign that takes months to shoot? Months? How long is this ad? It takes months to shoot a movie. Is he funding a feature-length ad for his perfume? Not gonna lie though, I'd probably watch it, but still. And what the hell's up with Lila being so clingy to Adrian? He legit hates her. He makes that pretty clear. Have some self-respect, girl. At least with Marinette's creepiness, you can sort of think, oh, well, he doesn't really seem to notice it all that much, and he finds her weirdness and clumsiness endearing and funny. But here, he always looks uncomfortable. Like I said before, premium cringe. And speaking of cringe, we then cut to Marinette, who's sitting in front of a computer, losing her mind that Adrian's going away for weeks with Lila of all people, which at first isn't cringe, until Tiki tells us that she has watched this random news report 22 times. What the hell? It's not like this is some funny clip or meme to be played on repeat. 22 times? Yikes. Plus she's late for school, and she hasn't even changed out of her pajamas. She needs to get a hold on her life. But I also do love the idea of Tiki making a mental note every time Marinette replays the video so she can throw it in her face at that exact moment to let her know how cringe it is. I've been alive for 1 billion years, and this is the cringiest thing I've ever seen, Marinette. Go to school. Anyway, Marinette arrives at school and once again chooses to hide behind a wheelie bin to spy on Lila. And this scene, it gets me heated because one, Lila's lies are so ridiculous and yet the characters actually believe this shit. Oh yeah, I speak every language in the world. Yeah? All 6,500 plus languages? How can anyone ever believe that? And also the Hollywood lie earlier? Come on. If she was in a Hollywood level film, I think somebody would have noticed. And then the other thing that gets me is why the hell would Marinette hide behind the bin? Those green bins truly stink. An ungodly stench of bin juice. Ugh. But at least Marinette decides she's going to tell him she loves him before he leaves on his trip. So there's that. And whilst I'm glad she's decided she wants to do that, I don't know if telling him that she's crushing on him is actually going to help the situation at all. I'm not sure how she thinks it could. Even if he felt the same way, it's not like this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Like, oh yeah, right, well, since Marinette has feelings for me, I can't possibly do this ad campaign for my dad. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But it is exciting nonetheless. Anyway, she gets froggied, and yes, I'm calling it froggied, don't judge me, and decides she's going to tell him in front of everybody. No hesitation, just going to do it right there on the dodgeball court. But before she can, he gets froggied and blurts out to her all his problems, which makes her dedicated to try and save the day. And then he tells her about this invisible force that's holding him back from standing up to his dad. Anyway, Marinette tries to confess again, and then she gets cock-blocked by Lila before everybody swarms Adrian to say goodbye. And also, how the hell is everybody still falling for Lila's BS? Ugh. And yeah, more cock-blocking, even by Chloe at this point. Been a while since she was relevant, eh? Also, it feels weird to see them team up on Marinette. Like, not all villains have to be on the same team, you know. I feel like their goals clash too much to ever work together, let alone be friends or allies. I assume this is some sort of development from an unreleased episode, unless I can't remember. But you know, I wouldn't be surprised if it was literally just introduced in this episode and we were meant to just accept it. Anyway, we then hit an interesting scene where Marinette begins to plot to prevent Adrian going on the trip with Lila. And it's interesting because this is one of the few scenes where she gets called out for doing her weirdo stalker stuff. Like, for the majority of all the seasons, her friends have kind of laughed off her antics and been all, oh, that crazy Marinette, you'll succeed next time. So it's actually refreshing for them to go, no, you're being weird, stop it. And it's kind of annoying that it only happens because the plot has to go this way instead of, you know, actually being a valid thing that they should say to Marinette. And on top of that, it's the one time they're actually wrong about the situation. So that's also frustrating, because at the end they're going to be like, oh, Marinette, you were so right, we're sorry. Anyway, she goes off to enact her plan, and meanwhile, everybody gets froggied. We see people texting and driving, not wearing helmets on bikes, running across the road without looking. But my personal favourite? Kim and Max jumping into the river with the intention of swimming the entire thing. With bonus points that Max cannot swim, and he's relying on his inflatable ducky to help him. And why? Why does he have an inflatable ducky in his school locker? And wasn't Kim literally at the lunch table with Marinette 2 seconds ago? As soon as she walks off, he immediately decides to strip down to his swimmers and jump in the river, rendezvousing with Max along the way. What speed? So many questions, and no answers in sight. But I loved it regardless. And also better hope that the villain gets deakumatized before these two fellas drown. Because since they're taking risks, they will literally never give up. Uh-oh. Meanwhile, Adrian goes home to Angst, where he encounters Felix, who after talking smack to him, convinces him to switch place for the duration of the trip, because Felix will be able to say no to Gabe, of course getting some spicy scenty hints along the way. Anyway, they do the switch and Felix takes advantage to swipe Natalie's tablet and then uses some random ass Spy Kids gadgets to find his fingerprints and crack the safe. And where does he get these gadgets? What even? Did I miss something here? Oh well, don't worry, because the writers don't seem to think it's important to explain. It is Felix after all. He's more intelligent than everybody in the city of Paris combined, and he's super rich, so just accept it and move on. And I mean, after all, he did manage to travel countries on a whim, like every 14-year-old can. Of course he'd have access to random spyware that's critical for this particular moment. Anyway, he finds and steals the fake Miraculouses before he notices the secret entrance to Gabe's creepy shrine room, whilst meanwhile, Gabe hands over his ring to Natalie to keep it safe, as well as Adrian safe. Yeah, and that's not sus at all, is it? If this becomes a red herring, I'm going to be truly shook. And I'll also probably be unable to ever trust in my social cues ever again. Anyway, this is where the episode shifts from spy thriller to horror movie, as Felix goes in and realizes Gabe is not playing around and that he has Aunt Emily on ice in the basement. Anyway, he boogies on out of there, because fair enough, he's just a kid messing with his uncle. He did not expect that when he woke up that morning, he would see his dead aunt in the fridge. I mean, how does he come back from this? And then he's found by Gabe and Natalie in the meeting room, and he tells Gabe he doesn't want to go on the trip, and then gets shot down, but he stands up for himself briefly, with Gabe doing the ring rub thing, although there's no ring. And Felix/Adrian denies him, before Natalie tells him, and he goes along with it. So yeah, looks like they're going for the Senti Adrian thing, with Gabe panicking about how Adrian never stands up for himself, and is freaking out only to be saved by Natalie. And I'm not thinking that Felix is one though, or at least he can't be controlled by that particular ring. If they did go with it though, I wouldn't be surprised if his Amok was in the ring he initially stole and kept. I just wanted to make that clear because I saw some people thinking that Felix was being controlled by Natalie, but I think he just noticed she had the ring on and went with it. Otherwise, why would they have that shot of adjusting her glasses in eyeline with Felix? We didn't get a close-up of him realizing it, but I think it's more to keep it vague so that you don't know who's the Senti monster just yet. Whether it's Adrian or Felix or both, but I'm thinking it's just Adrian because Felix wouldn't have that same impact. We don't care about him enough. In any case though, I think he never intended to help Adrian by defying Gabriel, he was just out for himself, and now he wants an escape from crazy Gabe. True, I would as well. So he offered that token resistance as a plausible reason for him being in that room in the first place, to distract from why he was really there. Although, if you really do hate the Senti Monster theory and you don't want to accept it until it actually happens, you can headcanon that Gabe had his little panic moment, because in that moment of defiance, fake Adrian reminded him of Emily. Who knows? At this point it's looking like the theory is true though, but you never know. Cutting back to Marinette, we see that her plan to save Adrian involves powering up as Ladybug and convincing him to stay. So it's a very bad plan. Not surprising. But she's supposed to be taking risks, so fair enough. But of course, anyway, when have bad plans ever stopped the characters in this show before? So it doesn't really change much. And as all this is going on, Kagami calls Adrian and rips him a new one for being a coward, before saying, "I'm sorry for being harsh," and hanging up. Kagami is underrated. Although, it is a bit rich, because doesn't her mum control her life too? But side note, Adrian being called a puppet by her? More foreshadowing perhaps? And then, who's pulling the strings of your life? Man, they're really laying it on thick now. Anyway, Ladybug swings by the train station and tries to convince fake Adrian to stay, but fails hard, because her reasons cringe and, well, it's actually Felix. So, out of luck there, Ladybug, shoo. And side note, who was there with Lila? Didn't look like her mum. Older sister, maybe? Who knows? Planting more seeds of her own parent troubles, perhaps? And also, I loved how needlessly dramatic this whole scene was. Felix, the character, should really become an actor. He's too good. And then, when Gabe gets confirmation that Adrian's out of the way, Gabe, on the Eiffel Tower, transforms in broad daylight because, it's not like there'd be any tourists on the Eiffel Tower or anyone to see you at all, and unleashes a huge giant senti monster and tells it to smash Paris. Yep, going full murderer now. And since everybody's risk-taking today, they do stupid shit like offer it ice cream or wave at it and not move out of the way. And that's not risky behaviour. That's just beyond stupid. It's brain-dead behaviour. Also, did the monster just completely crush a bus on the road? Were there people in the bus? In the unlikely event that it was empty, surely there would have been a driver on board the bus. Oh, what a terrible way to die, getting crushed by a monster. And then, of course, Ladybug continues to smooth brain as she decides to use the horse Miraculous to try and kidnap fake Adrian off the train to talk to his dad. Oh, and Adrian finds Felix's spy monocle thingy just as the monster turns up, before the episode ends on that tasty, tasty cliffhanger. And I gotta say, that episode was good. Pure wall-to-wall goodness. So much comedy, so much senti hints, so much romantic hints, and it didn't even need to pad out time with action sequences. There was no real fighting at all, just dialogue and character building, which is a nice change of pace, and is making me really excited for the finale, because surely now that will have to be released at this point. Don't be weak, Spectrum. Commit. Leak it. Either that, or Gloob is now rushing around their studio trying to move schedules so that they can be the one to release part 2 first for those glorious streaming views. Although if we have to wait weeks or months for a follow-up, I'm going to be sad. And I mean, this episode was so good, and the only downside of it was the goddamn Froggy song. It just stuck in my head. Ugh. Anyway though, those are just my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the episode? Like it, hate it? Make sure to leave a comment and let me know.